right, how's everyone doing tonight? This is welcome to the Tripwire podcast, part of the Triple Play Fantasy family. My name is Zach, and I'm joined by Toby tonight. So this is our third episode. The Tripwire stream every Monday night around 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. For the rest of the offseason, we're going to continue discussing sleepers by position. So if you missed episode 1, that was on QB sleepers. Episode 2 last week was running back sleepers. And tonight we're going to be talking about wide receiver sleepers. When the season starts in September, we're going to talk about waiver wire pickups every Monday before Monday Night Football starts. You'll be able to watch us live, or you can catch it on the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel on Tuesdays before your waivers run. You don't win your league at the draft. It is about making the right moves on the waiver wire that wins you championships, and we are here to help you win championships. So this week, like I said, we're going to talk about wide receiver sleepers. We're going to share a couple different wide receiver sleepers that are currently being drafted in the 10th round or later in redraft, according to Fantasy Pros consensus ADP. So, Toby, you want to kick it off for us with your first wide receiver?
Yeah, and the first guy I'm going to talk about here is Mike Williams from the Los Angeles Chargers. He is currently going off the board as wide receiver 48 with an ADP of around 125, which is middle of the 11th round, 11.5, 11.6. And we haven't seen it from Mike Williams consistently, but I think he's going to be one of those late bloomers like a Corey Davis last year. And this offense is just on the ups in Los Angeles with Herbert coming into his sophomore season. You have Eckler in the backfield, Keenan Allen on the opposite side. And if he mans that X role, and we saw Justin Herbert can chunk it deep and stays healthy for these 17 games, I think he's going to be a late round steal and push into that wide receiver 2 category that we hope to see him when he got drafted out of Clemson.
Yeah, no, I actually just wrote an article about Mike Williams. It came out yesterday for Club Fantasy, and it's his 5th year, so you typically don't have a 5th-year breakout. But he put together.
We saw it last year at Corey Davis, right? 5th-year breakout.
Yeah, Parker. It feels like and they were, I think, 4th year. So this would be uncharted territory, but he put a 1,000-yard season together one year. He put a 10-touchdown season one year. The problem is he hasn't put it together yet. I mean, his biggest thing is his lack of receptions. He even has had some decent target numbers a couple seasons. He just doesn't get enough catches. He's a deep ball threat. I think at one point he was averaging like almost 20 yards a reception. I think last year was around 16 or 17. So I get that they're not high catch rate receptions. So maybe the offense will be a little different this year with Lombardi coming over from the Saints. But he definitely has the potential, and he has the size, the speed. It's just whether they're going to actually dictate the offense to.
My thing is, we saw when he first came in the league, he was with Rivers, and Rivers wasn't known to just push it downfield like a Herbert. And we saw Herbert make guys like Jalen Guyton and the other guy, his name's slipping my mind right now. But we saw those guys catch 70, 75-yard touchdowns and burn down the field. And Herbert's got the arm talent to get it to Mike Williams this year. And in the second year of him under center, I think we'll see a big improvement from Williams.
Yeah, I think Herbert definitely has the talent. I mean, Keenan Allen's going to be the number one target getter there. Austin Eckler's not going to be close behind. So there should be enough targets for Mike Williams to make a dent. But, I mean, that's why he's a sleeper, and that's why he's not going as high, because we just haven't really seen it yet, but he definitely has the potential.
And he's on a good offense. Guys down here target a good offense because they're going to score points.
Exactly. And in that division, he's going against some good offenses. So, I mean, if you're playing the Chiefs twice, you got to put up points. I know we talked 2 weeks ago about the quarterback situation in Denver, which to be seen, but they have a lot of great talent on that team. So, I mean, you got to put up points against them. And a lot of people are down on the Raiders, but I mean, they're capable of putting up some points with Josh Jacobs. They have some talented wide receivers that could do something, and Derek Carr is one of the most accurate deep quarterbacks. So we'll see what happens. All right. So
get into your guy. I like this guy. Get into your guy.
Yeah. So this is a bit of a homer pick. I am a Cowboys fan, but Michael Gallup is the sleeper I want to talk about next. So he's wide receiver 49 right now. ADP of 132, which in a 12-team league is pick 11, 12. So 11th round, end of the 11th round, basically 12th round. So at this point, it's just all value, really no risk. So in 2020, between the three Cowboys wide receivers, Gallup led all of them in yards per reception with 14.3. Lamb was at 12.6 yards, and Cooper was at 12.1. So he stacked up well with them. It's a small sample size of looking at the games the Dak played before he's injured. It's only 4 games, but during that time, Gallup averaged an insane 21.2 yards per reception. Now that's not sustainable, but that tells you when he was playing with Dak that he was looking to go deep, and that was the big play threat was Gallup. From fantasy data in 2020, Gallup was 10th in contested catch rate at 66.7%. So when you throw it deep to him, he's coming down with the ball, which is what you need to make those big chunk plays. I mean, you're going this deep at your wide receiver. I mean, he's your wide receiver 4 or 5 on your team. And if you put him in your flex spot, you're just hoping that he gets a few big plays, and he's capable of doing that. And then even with all the different quarterbacks playing last year for the Cowboys, he still, according to PFF, had the highest passer rating when targeted with 105.1 compared to Cooper and Lamb that were just behind him in the low 100s and then high 90s. And then, believe it or not, all three wide receivers for the Cowboys last year had 5 touchdowns. So there's a lot of hype for CeeDee Lamb, which is understandable. There was some hype for Cooper before he is having this ankle problem that we're not really sure when he's going to be fully healthy. But everyone's kind of sleeping on Gallup. So I just think that at that value, why not put him on your bench?
And I tweeted about Gallup when the news of them not giving him a contract extension came out this year for his rookie deal. And I say he's a buy in dynasty formats too, because his price is relatively low right now. And you have a bad news that he's not going to come back to this Cowboys offense. But I think it'll be good news for Gallup going to a different offense. Maybe he can be the solidified number 2, or even on a not as great wide receiver core, be like a 1A, 1B situation with another middling wide receiver. And he's looked good when he's got the opportunities, but this offense just has so many weapons now that he kind of just got fiddled out. But with Cooper dealing with his ankle stuff and being on the pup right now, he's got some value in this offense because he is the guy next to CeeDee Lamb right now. And maybe you sell high on that in Dynasty right now because you can maybe work that, but I still think he's a buy, and I love the pick in redraft as well. Yeah, I think he's fighting. He's fighting for something. He's fighting for a contract. So,
yeah, I know we mostly focus on redraft with this podcast, but yeah, but even with Dynasty, with that, I mean, it came out. I think it was even today about his probably not getting extended or re-signed, which makes sense with just who they have on the team and the kind of money they have for the cap situation. It also wouldn't shock me if Amari Cooper is a cap casualty next year. The way he's on a big contract, but the way it's written, they could cut him next year with not that much money. So it wouldn't shock me if Lamb has a big year and they get rid of Cooper and Gallup and just get some younger guys in there that are cheaper because Dak is no longer cheap on the salary cap, and they have other players they need to pay too. But yeah, Gallup I think could really do well this year, and then he could help you next year. So yeah, in Dynasty he's going even cheaper than he is in redraft because he's just kind of the forgotten guy. But he's got the quality and the talent to be a wide receiver 1 on several other franchises. He just happens to be on a franchise with 2 other studs with him. So I wouldn't even, I mean, he plays as a wide receiver 3 on the team, but from a talent standpoint, he's not a wide receiver 3 for most rosters.
And getting into a guy that we were talking about earlier that had the year 4 breakout. My next guy is Devontae Parker, who's going at wide receiver 50. So we went 48, 49, 50. And his ADP is at 134, picked about the start of the 12th round. I have never really enjoyed Devontae Parker's ADP in recent years. And now that Waddle and Fuller are there in Miami, it's drove his ADP way down. And I enjoy it now just because I still think he can be the number 1 there, because I think Waddle, you'll see a lot of Waddle in the slot or on the outside. And then we haven't seen Fuller have a full healthy season without performance-enhancing drugs. So his target volume, I still think, is going to be there in Miami. And if Tua takes that leap that everybody is wanting him to and that he's expected to, I think it just opens a lot more up for that Miami offense. And Myles Gaskin isn't going to be a burner on the ground where he gets 20 to 25 carries, so they're still going to try to air it out in any way possible. And I think Devontae Parker becomes kind of that target volume guy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Devontae Parker. I mean, let's be honest, he's not even healthy right now in camp.
Yeah.
But no offense to Troy King out there, big Miami fan. Nobody on that offense seems like they're healthy right now for pass catchers, but it's still early. We're still in early August. But yeah, I mean, Will Fuller was a stud last year before he got suspended. I think he was like wide receiver 7 points per game. So he was balling out for a change, and his health is always a concern. And then, I mean, we have a lot of excitement for Jalen Waddle, but he came off a serious injury last year too, and he's been kind of iffy so far in camp, but looks good. So it wouldn't shock me if at some point throughout the year that one or two different pass catchers are out for a week or two at a time, and hopefully Devontae Parker is healthy during those weeks and he can plug in. But he's definitely a red zone threat. They're changing the offense. We talked about Tua during the QB sleepers. I expect him to play better as they change that offense with the new offensive coordinators, two of them. And I mean, yeah, you have Gesicki there in the red zone, and he's an athletic freak, but he hasn't really put it together yet either. So it wouldn't shock me to see Devontae Parker even lead the team in touchdowns, and you're getting would you say wide receiver 50?
Yeah, and my thing, like they love the Waddle hype. They want Fuller before Devontae Parker, but Parker's on this team last year. Parker played with Tua already. I know Jalen already played with Tua, but he played in the NFL with Tua, and so I feel like there could be a safety blanket if Tua doesn't get acclimated at the beginning of the season, because we knew he was confused last year with the playbook, and he said it publicly. So at the beginning of the season, Devontae could be the target monster as you're getting Waddle and Fuller acclimated to this new offense that they're going to be in even more. So
No, definitely.
I don't know why Devontae's getting the short end of the stick compared to these other two guys.
Yeah, I think people kind of forget that he had a great season 2 years ago. He was still solid last year, and I think just with all the excitement of Will Fuller and Waddle coming over, that they just kind of push him down. I mean, it's kind of similar to Gallup, like we just talked about.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's now the wide receiver 3 in perception wise, and now his draft stock plummets. But hey, that's great for anybody out there that's paying attention. And I mean, go grab him. And what do we say? Is it 12th round? So is he going? Yeah, beginning of the 12th round. So at that point, I mean, there's no risk for you. Worst case scenario, you see he doesn't look good for the first couple weeks, you cut him, pick up somebody else. I mean, and come watch our podcast, because we'll be talking about waiver wire pickups. I just don't see the risk with any of these guys, and that's why we're talking about them as guys for you to target. Towards
I think the next guy's probably going to be their safest one that we talk about.
See, that's funny because to me he feels like the most dangerous.
You feel most dangerous with this guy? I think he's safe.
Yeah,
I think he can have a safe floor with either quarterback.
Yeah, so we're talking about Darnell Mooney of the Chicago Bears, so second-year wide receiver. So he's going currently wide receiver 56 with an ADP of 147, which is pick 1303. So this is the latest guy that we're talking about right now. So he, in college, coming into his pros, he put up a 4.38 40-yard dash, which is a 95th percentile, and he had a 91st percentile breakout age. So you love to see that. And I think one of the most interesting stats that I found, that he was 15th in the league on deep ball targets. So that's 20 yards down the field. And he had 23 of them. But that was 25% of all of his targets. So Trubisky threw it deep a lot. The problem unfolds a little bit. But the problem with that is he only had 4 receptions out of those 23, which is a horrible number. But I feel like that's more of a quarterback problem than it was a Mooney problem. And with all those targets, he actually had 0 drops. So if the quarterback got it to him close and he got his hands on it, he caught the ball. So between Dalton and Fields, whenever Fields comes on, I feel like if they're using him for that deep ball threat again, he'll get a lot more promising targets. And then even as a rookie last year, he was still the wide receiver 2 in snaps as well as targets behind Robinson. And I expect him to be that as well. They just traded away Anthony Miller to the Texans, who probably would have been taking some snaps away from him anyway. So he's gone. And Newsome was a rookie now drafted. He's coming off a broken clavicle, I believe. So I don't expect him to really take away any snaps So I think Mooney is safe as the wide receiver 2 on that team, but I'm just curious to see if that's still enough to really make him as good as. I mean, he's really been hyped up a lot the last few
Yeah,
days. He's been making some great plays in camp, which is exciting, and he's capable of that. But to me, he's still, even though he's being drafted so late, he still feels like more of a wide receiver 3. And you're just hoping for some boom weeks as like a wide receiver 2, but I wouldn't expect consistent wide receiver 2 numbers from him.
yeah, he feels like an upside play of those games you're going in on a bye week, and he could. I don't know whatever deep, however deep your league is, if I can speak, but he could be on your waiver somewhere in 12 to bigger leagues. He's not going to be, but he's going to be one of those guys that I think you see that green matchup against whoever he's going against, and you have somebody on your bye week, and you're going to plug and play, and you can feel pretty confident about it, and not have to worry, be like, or even if somebody gets injured, I feel like you can still put him in there and be semi okay with his production that he's going to put up this year in that Bears offense. Because we've seen Allen Robinson can do it all, but I don't know if we want to continue to see Allen Robinson do it all for a health standpoint.
Yeah, no, I mean, Allen Robinson is the alpha on the team, but I mean, if we're also talking dynasty, wouldn't shock me if Allen Robinson isn't on the team next year. He's
Yeah.
currently on a franchise tag that he's not happy about. So he's not signed for next year. I don't see it happening. So, I mean, I could see Fields balling out and Robinson being happy and the Bears pay him and he re-signs with them, which is great. But I could also see him just being fed up and wanting to go somewhere else. And now Mooney, I'm not sure if he's your typical wide receiver 1, but I mean, unless they bring in somebody else in free agency, he'd step into that role. So, I mean, as deep as you can get him right now in Dynasty, he's also not a bad pickup in that format. But yeah, for me, I think there's a lot of hype right now because we're watching camp videos.
Yeah.
So I just want to remind everyone, these guys are sleepers for a reason. They're being drafted as late as they are for a reason. But we wanted to highlight their upside and let you know that, hey, these are guys you can target that, like I said, worst case scenario, you drop them after a few weeks and you get on the waiver wire, but it doesn't hurt to put that upside on your team. I want to actually.
I have one more name to throw out there as well.
Perfect.
And this is for redraft only, and Dynasty is not going to go this late. But Elijah Moore from the New York Jets, and redraft, he's going probably right around where Moody's going, if I've seen mock drafts correctly.
Yep.
I haven't looked at ADP in a minute, but we've seen all the camp videos, we've heard all the camp talk, and I'd buy into that camp talk because they drafted him to replace or start over Jamison Crowder that they did not cut, which they probably should have. But he is a superb talent coming out of Ole Miss. And with Zach Wilson and who'd they bring in as their OC?
I don't even remember. I know Salah's the head coach, but I'm blanking on the OC.
The new OC, he's been talked about that he's going to open up this offense like they did in San Fran with Jimmy Garoppolo on those play actions, and he would hit Debo or George Kittle on those crosses. And with all the camp talk and how late his ADP is right now, it's a shot I'm willing to take on a rookie wide receiver over some of these guys that were just looking for upside that late.
Yeah. Though if we're believing the Jets PR intern, they released the depth charts today, and he's on the third team. But I don't believe it, but so maybe I'll drive down his ADP a little bit as people get scared. But yeah, and he's looked great in camp, and I would say he's probably one of those guys that might help you later in the season than in the beginning, but definitely doesn't hurt to throw on the bench that late.
It's one of those guys that somebody in your home league or whatever is going to watch ESPN's fantasy football frenzy that they do every year for 24 hours, and a guy like Matthew Berry is going to talk about him, and somebody's going to pick him at the end of your draft late, and then somebody's going to drop him because he might not do good for the first 4 or 5 weeks, and then he's going to kick it on at the end of the season, and you're going to have him on the waiver wire where you just scoop him up.
Yeah, I mean, how many stories have we heard this offseason about Justin Jefferson getting dropped after the first couple weeks because he's a rookie? He had a lot of bad press in camp. Everyone's like, oh, he's running with the second team. Didn't look too great the first couple weeks, and then has a record rookie season. So you definitely don't want to give up on some of these guys too early, but it happens every year. So it wouldn't shock me. And I also want to highlight a few guys too. We won't go too in depth, but just some guys that are going this late that kind of stand out to me of some hype going on them right now. So Laviska Shenault obviously is being hyped a lot. He's currently wide receiver 44, going 119. But with Chark having surgery, he could be
His
ready for the
ADP will
season.
probably rise a little bit.
Correct. I expect him to rise
Target.
up, but he's a great guy right now. See, Henry Ruggs has been getting some decent press recently. Obviously, he had a terrible rookie year, but between him and Brian Edwards, wouldn't shock me if either of them don't show us something this year that you can get them super late. Um, Cole Beasley, I know, has been very controversial this offseason for his position on the vaccine, but he was he said he was the best slot receiver. I don't know if he's the best slot receiver, but he actually put up some decent numbers last year. And to grab a guy this late, especially in a PPR league,
Oh yeah.
that's going to get that many catches. Josh Allen just got paid, so he's going to keep throwing it. It doesn't hurt your squad. And then even Marvin Jones, who we just talked about, Chenault, on the same team. Everyone's sleeping on Marvin Jones. He's done it before. He's gotten paid. He played with this OC back in Detroit, so it wouldn't shock me to see him make some big plays with Lawrence and actually end up being the top wide receiver for the Jaguars, even though he's going to be the last one drafted. So he's just someone to look out for. Miko Hardman is getting some camp hype again. I don't love him, but apparently he's a wide receiver too, which has not done anything for the Chiefs offense as a wide receiver too.
But wide receiver two we heard of that's been fantasy relevant from Kansas City in the past 3 years.
No, it hasn't happened because they don't get the targets. But if you're getting him at wide receiver 55, that late in the draft, throw a dart throw, that doesn't hurt. Russell Gage is now the wide receiver 2 with the Falcons. He didn't look terrible last year when Julio Jones was out. I know Kyle Pitts is going to get a lot of targets as everyone's hyping him up. But again, this late at wide receiver 58, another dart throw that, hey, see how he looks in the first couple of weeks on that offense, and then just cut him if you don't like him. And then Nelson Aguilar was a surprising beast last year for the Raiders on that deep ball. And now he's with the Patriots, and no one's really talking about him because we're all scared of that quarterback situation. Does Cam Newton still have an arm? Is he going to play? Is he just going to run it? To
me in New England, I'd take Jacoby Myers over Aguilar right now. Just based off of volume, I think.
Yeah, Myers looked good last year.
Yeah,
and he's going even later. But I think
another guy would be Rashad Bateman in Baltimore, another rookie. Mm-hmm. He's impressed in camp, and another late rookie wide receiver. You just throw a dart at.
Yep, and I think what we just illustrated is there's a lot of, I won't call them great guys because they're going this late for a reason, but there's a lot of wide receivers out there that are worth a dart throw. That maybe it's best in your league to get a couple stud wide receivers and really hit running back hard in the early to mid rounds, and then just scoop up a bunch of these wide receiver dart throws, see if any of them stick, and then just kind of go for that waiver wire roster churn as the season goes on if you need to. But there's plenty of wide receiver 2s on offenses that are being drafted super late this year because they're deemed as not a great offense or not a great quarterback situation, but they're still capable of putting up points.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right, and is there anything else you wanted to end with? Any closing thoughts?
Rojo to the moon. That's what I end it with.
Fair enough. And do you have anything to plug for this week coming up?
Just check out all of Triple Play socials. And I want to mention again, my brother, Zentech_Kobe on Twitter, is trying to get into the space, and just go throw him a follow, and that's all I could ask for.
Awesome, man. You guys both been putting up some awesome graphics. So definitely check both of your guys' accounts. And next week, we'll be back talking about tight end sleepers, which will be a fun one because it feels like after the first 3 or 4, they all feel like sleepers. So we'll have fun with that one. And then this week on the Triple Play Fantasy team, we have for football running back rankings debate with Andrew Erickson. And then the Super FF Bros, hosted by Kevin and Jacob, will be having their next episode. That's both on Tuesdays. So I think 6:30 for the first one, and then the Super FF Bros around 7:30 on Tuesday. For basketball, we have the free agency recap. A lot of moves in the NBA as always. So they'll be talking about that for you. And then for baseball, we have a mailbag show this week. So for those of you playing fantasy baseball, I know we're in the dog days of summer in August now. But a lot of great information coming from that show. The best way to support this show is to subscribe to the Triple Play Fantasy channel on YouTube, so you don't miss any of our shows or any of those other great shows that I just shared with you. And we are now over 900 subscriptions, which is awesome. But we're trying to get to beyond 1,000 before the NFL season starts. So make sure you're subscribing so you don't miss anything. And definitely follow us for the season. Also, you can follow this show on Twitter at the Tripwire Pod. So that way you'll catch all of our episodes and you'll see content coming out from there. Then follow both of us on Twitter as well. So I'm at FF Chalupa Batman, and then Toby's at Z2 Fantasy. So give us a follow, and we'll see you guys all next week. Have a great night, guys.
Peace.